I was eating soda crackers, honey, 10 cents a pound. Working on the railroad, sleeping on the ground. If things don't suit me, guess I'll try another town.
Okay, I guess that's enough of that. The main reason I wanted to do this video is we have to show and tell this beautiful 1890s SS Stewart Thoroughbred banjo. Check it out. I'll show you these. Check out these little fret markers on the side, mother of pearl. Have to show you that. Beautiful grapevine motif on the heel, goes all the way around. You got more inlay on the heel cap. Pretty nice. I see a lot of these carved heels that I don't particularly care for, even on some Stewarts that look a little rough to me. This one was pretty finely done. Whoever did that had done it a few times before. I think that's really pretty. It's clearly grapes. So let's see, I'll show you the inside too. Oh Lord. There's the serial number. It's 7966. And the dowel matches the rim serial number. If I can find that rim. If y'all can see on the rim there, there is another stamp here. So anyhow, the dowel matches the rim. It's all original. And that serial number 7966 puts this early 1890s. Well, I do have to show these. We had the original pegs on here originally, but I broke one of those damn original friction pegs. So I had to put these. These are patent tuners. These are, you know, 1890s, early 1900s tuners. They are fine for this. It's not what would have been on the banjo from the factory. But this thing has had some updates over the years. For example, it started its life out fretless. You can tell that because it had these fret markers on the side. I don't think Stewart ever put these mother of pearl fret markers on a fretted banjo. They called these professional frets. So this was meant to be in the place of frets on a fretless banjo, I'm pretty sure. But these frets were put on probably shortly after the banjo was made. These are antique, late 19th century, early 20th century frets. They're German silver. Got a bone nut there. Really, I like that inlay. I like this banjo a lot. Check it out. It's got that little second layer underneath the peg head and the fingerboard there. It's got all the original hardware. Typical of a Stewart banjo, the rim is clad. Pretty much all of his banjos were spun over. All of his banjos made from about 1880 on were spun over. This is an original, pretty sure that's an original tailpiece. This bridge is a Clifford Essex bridge. That's not an antique bridge, but it's appropriate for what would have been on an instrument like this. So anyhow, it's really nice. We should probably talk about Stewart for a minute. I'm not terribly interested with Stewart as an individual, although he seems like maybe he was a pretty interesting guy. I mostly just, I think what's valuable, we should just know, you know, a little bit about the guy and the factory. So he basically, he made banjos from 1878 to 1898. And everything I'm going off of, for the most part, is from this book, America's Instrument, The Banjo in the 19th Century. This is by Gura and Bollman. So this is a great book to have. This book should be in every home. Anyhow, so most of what I know about Stewart comes from this book, and then the rest of it's filled in by, you know, collectors. I know one guy in particular who knows everything about Stewart because he's been a collector of Stewart banjos and ephemera for decades. So I've learned a fair bit from them. The main gist, if you just sort of talk to people about Stewart, Sam Stewart, the guy who owned the company, he sort of has a bad reputation today because he was, you know, he was really racist, or pretty damn racist, and he sort of did a lot to. He kind of started the idea that the banjo was a white instrument. I feel like, it seems to me, because before about 1890, everybody understood that the banjo was a black instrument, right? That it came from black culture primarily. And then Stewart was trying to sort of improve the banjo, tried to make it acceptable, I guess, in mainstream society. And one of the ways he did that was by arguing that it really probably was a white instrument. And he did, one of the things he did was, I think he either started the myth, or he basically gave life to the myth that Joel Sweeney put the fifth string on the banjo. I think that was sort of a little rumor before Stewart started talking about things like that. Stewart printed that. He had a very popular journal that, you know, had many subscribers, and people believed everything he said. So he pushed stuff like that in his magazine that he sold for years. But anyhow, he started in 1878, and he had a couple different factories. He had basically started with a small workshop in Philadelphia, and after a few years there, he pretty quickly bought a whole building in the same town in Philadelphia. And I think for 20 years, I think most of 20 years, Stewart worked in that factory in Philadelphia. And really, it wasn't in 1898 he went into this partnership with another guy named Bauer. And Bauer kind of took things over, and Stewart died right after that in 1898. So one thing they talk about him at length in this book. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about him, but I can show you some of the neat stuff in this book. For example, if I can find it, I think this is pretty neat. This was from S.S. Stewart's journal, his magazine. I think it was, what the hell was it called? The Banjo, S.S. Stewart's Banjo and Guitar Journal. So they had these nice illustrations that they put that kind of showed some of the basic jobs inside the factory. You know, for a factory that existed for 20 years or more, we know very little about this factory. They didn't keep hardly any records. See if there's a nice photo of it. These photos are kind of blurry of it. Here shows the front of it. anyhow, pretty cool stuff. And I think the main thing I want to get away to, I've heard some people, not many, but occasionally I've heard people say that Stewart was responsible for the spun over rim banjo, and that is not quite accurate. He's probably the guy who championed, when we say spun over rim, we mean that this is a wooden rim and it's got sheet metal that's been spun over it, and it's got these pieces of wire. Hey puppy girl. It's got these pieces of wire that hold it up on top and bottom of the rim. That kind of creates a sort of a tone ring. But anyhow, so this is what we're talking about when we mean a spun over rim. It means a wooden rim that's clad in sheet metal. This example is, I think all of Stewart's were, for the most part, clad in German silver, and I think it's nickel-plated German silver, because that's way too shiny to just be German silver. But anyhow, Stewart actually wrote when he was alive. He never tried to claim that he invented the spun over rim. There was a couple of makers up in New York, out of Troy, New York, in the 1870s that Stewart learned a lot from, I guess. And those guys are who he claims really pioneered the spun over banjo rim. You don't really see it hardly in 1870s banjos. Really, the first banjos that you really see it commonly are S.S. Stewart banjos, starting in the early 1880s is when you really start seeing it. So Stewart was the guy who said, hey, this metal-clad banjo rim is a great idea. I'm going to make all my banjos that way, and I'm going to tell everybody that every banjo should be that way. And he was that guy. If you think this is beautiful and you'd like to see more, I would really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, if you shared the video with some friends of yours, and if you subscribe to the channel, that'd be even better. Okay, everybody. Thanks for looking.